give you the floor in a little while, Paolo, to introduce Sergio. Just let me start the meeting. Thank you.
Karen, we can begin now.
Yes, please.
Please begin, Karen.
Well, good day, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this virtual seminar on nuclear conscience and conflicts in the Middle East. In this meeting, we have the honor to welcome our past president for the last 7 years, Ambassador Sergio Duarte from Brazil, and our new president, Dr. Hussain Al-Shahristani. We also have present in this meeting our Secretary General, Professor Paolo Cota Ramusino, and the chair of the Executive Committee, Professor Stephen Miller. We also have members of council, of the Pugwash Council, and also members of the young branch of the Pugwash Conferences, which is the International Student Young Pugwash, through its director, Talia Weiss. And we also have our executive officer, Paul Christensen. So welcome. Without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Professor Cota Ramusino to pay tribute to our outgoing president, Ambassador Duarte, who will speak afterwards. Please, Paolo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is an important moment now. We are changing the president, but it's important to have the opportunity to thank Sergio Duarte for, I think, 6 years or 7 years, sorry, of presidency of Pugwash in a moment which has been extremely difficult for everybody and for Pugwash in particular. We really appreciate a lot the contribution that Sergio Duarte made during these years. And we know there have been very difficult times. We had problems with the global situation. We started with COVID, then we had a big problem in Ukraine and the Middle East. I hope you are going to discuss about the situation in the Middle East and try to find some place where Pugwash can give a contribution. I think that Sergio Duarte it's a very important. He was working for the United Nations for a long time. He's a Brazilian, and we hope that he will stay with us for a long time. He had some health problem which I understand has been solved, or at least put in the side, and this will be very important that we will have Sergio Duarte together with us for the future. I don't know whether I should introduce briefly Dr. Al-Shahristani. Shall I or not?
I'll do that later, Paolo. Thank you. Let's listen to Sergio Duarte now if you have finished.
Fine.
Thank you very much.
Then we'll do that later. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. So Sergio, welcome.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much, Karen. I thank you very much for not only for giving me the floor, but particularly for giving me this opportunity to speak and also to recognize your performance so far at the helm of the council. I usually speak very seldom and I speak very briefly. And today I have to speak even briefer, because of my state of my health. I am glad to see also and to welcome our new president, Dr. Hussain Al-Shahristani. And I'm glad to see distinguished scientists like him to take the presidency of Pugwash. Our organization is founded by scientists, and it is important that they continue to play a major role in our endeavors. As you know, I resigned the post of president in July last year, after having served for about 7 years in that position. We had some difficult times, both as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and our temporary reduction in contributions from our donors. Even so, we were able to, I was glad that I could participate in that. We were able to organize a number of events in that period. With your invaluable support, Paul, and asked also that the new Secretary General, new head of the council, Dr. Karen Halberg. But Paulo's performance in supporting me was, I am extremely grateful for that. Despite current worrisome trends in international affairs, I am confident that Dr. Al-Shahristani will be able to guide Pugwash to continue to play its vital role in reducing tensions and in contributing to peace and understanding in accordance with its mandate. Finally, a word of thanks to all of you for your unwavering support during the years I was president. It was a pleasure and an honor to serve Pugwash and you in that capacity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, thank you. We all appreciate very much, and it was an honor to have you, Sergio, as our president. And thank you for all you did for Pugwash, and you are still doing. So thank you also for being with us now. Now it is my pleasure.
And we'll do it in the future.
Of course, you will. Yes. Now it's a pleasure to introduce our new president, Dr. Hussain Al-Shahristani. I will make a very brief introduction to his extended CV and activities. Dr. Al-Shahristani is a scientist, a scholar, and a statesman from Iraq. He obtained his PhD in nuclear chemistry, and in 1971, he was imprisoned in the Abu Ghraib prison for 11 years after refusing to collaborate on a nuclear weapon for Iraq. After escaping to Iran during the first Gulf War, he returned to Iraq in 2005, becoming the first vice president of the Transitional National Assembly. From 2006 to 2016, Dr. Al-Shahristani served in government as Minister of Oil, as Deputy Prime Minister for Energy Affairs, as Acting Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research. So he also participated actively in several Pugwash conferences, and in 2012, he was awarded the Freedom from Fear Award by Roosevelt Foundation. Dr. Al-Shahristani, we are honored to have you as our new president. I invite you to talk about nuclear conscience and conflicts in the Middle East. The floor is yours.
I'm sorry, there was a little bit of interruption. I think you have asked me to talk now, correct? Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah, the floor is yours. Thank you,
Okay.
Hussain.
Well, good day and good evening, wherever you are. I really appreciate you taking time for this meeting. But first and foremost, I would like to join in paying tribute to Sergio Duarte, our ex-president. We really appreciate the time and efforts that he has put to lead Pugwash at challenging times when the world witnessed tragic conflicts and threats of possible use of nuclear weapons. His leadership and compassion were inspirational for many of us. Thank you, Sergio. I am humbled to be asked to preside over such a prestigious group of outstanding scholars and scientists committed to a world free of nuclear and other weapons of mass destruction, a world where all nations and individuals can live in peace and freedom and strive together to improve their life quality and prosperity, but not at the expense of others who co-inhabit this planet with us. I was asked to talk briefly about my personal encounter with the nuclear weapons and also on current conflicts in the Middle East. Well, I was chief scientific advisor to the Iraqi Atomic Energy Commission when Saddam Hussein came to power in 1979. He wanted to redirect the work of the commission from peaceful applications of nuclear energy, that was our main activity in the commission, to what he referred to as strategic program. So I was faced with a dilemma where I had to make a choice, either to work on development of nuclear weapons or pay a price. The choice was simple, and the price turned to be bearable: 11 years and 3 months in prison, 10 years of which in solitary confinement. In the interrogation quarter, after severe torturing, the head of the Iraqi intelligence, Hussain Al-Shahristani, Saddam's half-brother, forcefully told me that it is a man's duty to serve his country, and those who are not willing to serve do not deserve to be alive. I nodded that I agreed that it is a person's duty to serve his or her country. But I had a different understanding of what constituted a service to my country. It was then when I was incarcerated into solitary confinement for 10 years, from May 1980 to May 1990. Allow me to say a few words on nuclear conscience and ongoing conflicts that threaten peace and security in different corners of the world. We are currently witnessing devastating wars in Ukraine and Gaza, and potential conflicts in East Asia. Threats of possible use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine has been made by Russian officials. A senior US senator and an Israeli minister also talked about using such weapons as a final solution to subdue Gaza. Tensions are simmering in the Korean Peninsula and between the US and China. In all these conflicts, one or more of the countries involved possess nuclear weapons. Commercial satellite images show that the US, Russia, and China are now modernizing their nuclear testing facilities. The world has not finished yet cleaning up the consequences of nuclear testing that ended decades ago, that we hear again of possible resumption of these tests. The ex-US Energy Secretary, Mr. Moniz, said in a recent interview, quote, "Among the major nuclear powers, if there is a resumption of testing, it will be the United States first," unquote. Let us recall that testing nuclear weapons in the past has left numerous communities with illnesses, destruction, and displacement. These were mostly marginalized communities in remote areas in Kazakhstan, Marshall Islands, Xinjiang, Uyghur, and elsewhere that had no say over what happened on their land and became unwitting casualties of those tests. A single explosive test by any of the major nuclear powers could lead to resumption of testing among all of them. And the world may lose decades of hard-won tranquility after banning nuclear tests. This situation calls on Pugwash to live up to its ideals, to free the world from the threat of such weapons or any other weapons of mass destruction. Even one nuclear bomb in the world is too many. We in the Pugwash community have committed ourselves to uphold moral standards and social obligations, to put science in the service of mankind. Scientists have been revered for improving quality of life for many of the planet. Our generation is thus a custodian of the tirelessly earned recognition, respect, and authority accrued by many generations of scientists, and we should therefore be very alert to any misuse of scientific knowledge which may tarnish or undermine these accomplishments. As I assume responsibility of Pugwash presidency, I call on fellow scientists around the world to refrain from working on weapons of mass destruction. Such weapons will not enhance national security of any country, but rather encourage rulers to be more aggressive and less compromising in solving international problems. We have serious responsibility to work together to change the world from zones of conflicts and wars into a world where we strive to know more about peace than about war, where we invest more of our intellectual and material resources in caring than in killing. I believe that working together to uphold the principle of advancing human knowledge with ethical conduct, we can leave behind a better world for generations to come. We have a moral obligation to leave this homeland, the planet Earth, a better place for mankind and the other inhabitants of the planet. As for the Middle East, it has been regrettably one of the most conflict-ridden regions in the world. On several occasions in the past 4 decades, parties to military confrontations in the region either used or were on the verge of using weapons of mass destruction. The presence of such weapons in the region has not prevented wars and conflicts. Israel's arsenal of nuclear warheads did not avert 4 wars with its neighbors, nor did Saddam Hussein's use of chemical weapons shorten the 8-year war with Iran. Similarly, the chemical arsenals in Libya and Syria did not prevent civil wars. The core of the conflicts in the Middle East region is the plight of the Palestinian people. Without resolving this dilemma, the region would not enjoy peace, security, or stability. The Palestinian people's persistence on living free in their homeland and establishing their national state would remain the core root of the Middle East conflicts. The ongoing war in Gaza and the atrocities that have been committed against civilian population have seriously aggravated the situation and caused unimaginable human suffering. An immediate ceasefire and end of all hostilities is the only path forward that would lead to a negotiated settlement acceptable to the Israelis and the Palestinians. Only such a negotiation between the two parties can bring a lasting peace. Other conflicts in the Middle Eastern region are directly or indirectly consequences of this core issue. The Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Ansarullah in Yemen involvement in the ongoing conflicts are direct consequences of this war. Rather than heeding to international calls by the UN General Assembly, the Security Council, the International Court of Justice, and leading international humanitarian and human rights organizations for immediate ceasefire and negotiated settlement, we hear of plans to extend the war into Lebanon that can only exacerbate the situation and bring about a greater devastation than what we already witnessed. Even some aspects of the Iranian nuclear program are indirectly connected to this ongoing conflict and to Israel's refusal to abandon its nuclear arsenal that is conceived as a real threat by the people in the region. Iran's effort to enrich uranium to levels beyond what is required to fuel power reactors is in response to this perceived Israeli threat. The landmark Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action agreement reached by the P5+1 and Iran was an essential step in avoiding nuclear armament and promoting stability in the region. It eliminated concerns over the Iranian nuclear program, ultimate goal, as feared by some countries in the region. With the withdrawal of the Trump administration from the JCPOA in May 2018, destroyed any chance of resolving this issue. Once the war in Gaza ceases and a negotiated settlement is reached between Israel and the democratically elected Palestinian Authority that represents all Palestinians, all hostilities and conflicts in the Middle East are expected to be quickly resolved, and peaceful relations and cooperation among all nations of the region should prevail. This would also pave the way to establish a Middle East zone of free weapons of mass destruction. The status quo is not an option, as it only pushes the region into more weapons of mass destruction proliferation. All states must seek cooperative security arrangement rather than weapons of mass destruction development. Pugwash should vigorously continue its campaign for elimination of nuclear and other weapons of mass destruction in collaboration with all international organizations pursuing such goals. Till that inspiring dream is achieved, we should endeavor to lay keystones on the way to that great ideal by establishing regions of weapons of mass destruction-free zones. We have very successful examples of such zones in Latin America, Africa, Central Asia, Southeast Asia, and elsewhere. Let us work together to make the Middle East the next zone. Thank you again for taking time to allow me to say a few words on the occasion of assuming responsibility for the presidency of Pugwash. Without the support and commitment of each one of you, I will not be able to do justice to the role you have chosen me to perform. And together, we can make Pugwash a leading platform for nuclear disarmament dialogue and peaceful resolution of world conflicts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Al-Shahristani, for your encouraging words. So through your courage, your strong commitment to peace, to the peaceful use of nuclear weapons, and to the responsibility of scientists, you represent the core values of Pugwash. So thank you very much. And it's an honor to have you as our president. I would give the floor. I will give the floor to a few questions. I see Paolo has his hand up, and then there are a few questions from other members of the Young Pugwash and from the council. So Paolo, please. Paolo, you can ask.
Paolo, your microphone is off.
Yeah, sorry. I was saying that Joseph Rothler, one of the founders of Pugwash, just decided to abandon the Manhattan process when he discovered that Germany was not really able and planning to have nuclear weapons. So he left the building of the nuclear weapons and he went away. I think that Hussain Al-Shahristani is exactly the person in the same line of thinking. When he saw that his party, his state was willing to construct weapons, nuclear weapons, he left. And I think that he paid very severely for that with 11 years of jail. And I think that Hussain Al-Shahristani is exactly in line with our founder of Pugwash. So his presence as a member, as a president, is just the reconstruction of what Pugwash has been always doing.
Thank you, Paolo.
Thank you, Paolo. I completely agree with your words. I have a question here from Talia Weiss. She is the director of the International Student Young Pugwash. So Talia, would you like to ask your question? Welcome.
Thank you. And actually, my question is closely related to the previous comment by the Secretary General of Pugwash. What I wanted to ask is, well, we all know of and of course admire your courage in refusing to work on Iraq's nuclear weapons program. And if I understand correctly, you were in a position to display that courage because of your role as an esteemed scientist in your country. So I wanted to ask, in light of that, what do you see as the responsibility of scientists in other countries today with respect to nuclear weapons programs, in particular scientists in states that either possess nuclear weapons, are under a nuclear umbrella, or have interest in developing a weapons program? And perhaps particularly, it could be interesting to hear your perspective on how this question of responsibility applies to young or early career scientists. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Talia. First of all, I would like to commend you and your colleagues in the International Young Student Pugwash for what you are doing. Your work is really inspiring for me and I believe for other members in Pugwash. So thank you for what you are doing and keep on to build a better world free of weapons of mass destruction. Science without conscience and morals can be a dangerous tool. With them, scientists over many generations have tirelessly contributed to improving the quality of life on Earth. Scientists' social responsibility is to care for humans and non-human lives, and not to develop weapons of mass extinction. My plea to scientists who work on such weapons is, I'll tell them to remember that these weapons will not enhance national security of your country, but rather encourage your rulers to be more aggressive and less compromising in solving international problems. I have confidence in the new generation of scientists like you and your colleagues that would see that the weapons of mass destruction development during the Cold War did not contribute to peace, security, or cooperation among nations. On the contrary, it diverted resources from eradicating poverty on Earth to strategies of mass suicide. We're lucky that those efforts during the Cold War did not succeed in bringing a catastrophe on humanity as was perceived. So I would really call on all scientists who are working on such programs to reconsider their positions. If they show resentment and refuse to continue such work, I think we can all expect a better world, a more peaceful world, a more just world, a world where all humans can live together peacefully. This is my comment.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Hussain. We have another question by another member of the ISIP, the International Student Young Pugwash, Ksenia Pirnavskaya. She is the Deputy Director of the ISYP. So Ksenia, you're welcome to ask your question.
Thank you so much, Karen. I hope you hear me well.
Yes.
My question is about the Middle East and Pugwash. How do Pugwash efforts complement and interact with the work of other organizations operating in the Middle East? And in addition, how, if at all, can early career individuals like us in the ISYP contribute to preventing proliferation and reducing the risk of nuclear war in the region? Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for your concern for the Middle East and what is going on there. It is quite tragic, not only for the people of the Middle East, but also potentially could be tragic for people in other regions of the world if this conflict that is going on is not resolved quickly, and this massacres that are going on are not brought to an end. The Middle East is very complicated, in a very difficult situation. We have political differences, political conflicts, military engagements in Palestine and potentially elsewhere. As a matter of fact, even in Syria and Libya and elsewhere. And also, there is a general dissatisfaction of the people with the performance of their governments and the fact that the region have not witnessed any peace during their lifetime. Therefore, the young people in the Middle East, and I do strongly encourage you to be in touch with people of your mindset in the Middle East, and there are many of them who are looking for a way out of this disastrous situation. I think if you can arrange meetings of young people getting together at university levels. I know, for example, in Iraq, I've been talking to some people at the University of Baghdad. They are very much keen and interested to meet their counterparts in other countries and see what they can do together to build a better future for themselves than our generation has left them with. So this is something I think should really consider in and working with. As for Pugwash in general, historically, it has been a platform for concerned people who are really dedicated to peaceful resolution of conflict, to a world free of weapons of mass destruction, to get together in a quiet environment and discuss of possible solutions. Hopefully they can go back to their countries, talk to the people in charge of the country, of points that have been raised and possible fruits of engagement to find a solution to these problems. Pugwash, in my view, should really continue that. It's always very useful to have a backdoor for people can just exchange views, knowing that their views would not necessarily represent the official governmental position, but at least the people who are engaged in these discussions are in a position to present some of these views and possible ways forward to the authorities in their countries. So this is what Pugwash can really do. Otherwise, we don't have any other than our moral stand and our humanitarian appeal. There isn't much else that Pugwash can really do.
Thank you very much. We have another question, Dr. Al-Shahristani, by a member of council. She is Venance Journet. She is a member of council from France. Venance, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Thank you very much, Dr. Al-Shahristani, for your inspiring talk. I mean, your exemplary decision showed that it's not only good words that you say, but true words. I'm a physicist living in Paris, and my first encounter with Pugwash members was in the course of my activities to raise awareness on the case of Vanunu in the late 80s. My question is the following. The unacknowledged Israeli nuclear arsenal is a risk for Israel country, for the region, and also for the world. There are many risks associated to this arsenal, like with all other arsenals, of course, including the French one, is the risk about mistakes, human mistakes, technological mistakes, etc. So, but there is another risk that it would lead other countries of the region to proliferate and build nuclear weapons since they could feel threatened by Israel. So how do you think we could, well, the present government being as it is, it's of course very difficult to imagine that there could be a lowering of those risks, and they may not be decided to talk about it. But what do you imagine could be confidence building measures in the future to lower this risk and to restore some confidence in the region? Thank you.
Well, thank you for that question, Venance. I agree with you. The Israeli arsenal of nuclear weapons is a very serious problem and obstacle to resolution of the conflicts in the Middle East. My first plea is to the Israelis themselves. As I tried to explain in my presentation, having this nuclear arsenal has not prevented wars between Israel and its neighbors over 4 decades or more. And it is difficult for me to conceive how can possibly these weapons help the security of the country, particularly when such a small, limited area is involved, where the adversaries are engaged, as what is going on in Gaza. Such weapons will be self-defeating. They can do as much damage to the party that uses them as to the party that is being used against it. So I don't think really these weapons are going to enhance your security in any way. And that's true for any other country also. And my other plea is for all the countries in the region that let us help the Palestinians and the Israelis to engage together to find a solution that satisfies their national aspirations and their real needs, without them coming to some kind of understanding and acceptance of living together or beside each other in peace and harmony. There is no way that this conflict is going to end. It is unrealistic for the Israelis to expect, if they normalize relationship with some of the Arab countries, as they've tried in the last few years and so on, it is going to put aside or put away the problem of Palestine. It wouldn't, because this problem is with the Palestinian people and not with the other Arab countries. Of course, the other Arab countries would sympathize, and the Muslim countries would sympathize, the third world countries would sympathize. Many people in the developed world will sympathize. But there isn't much they can do about it unless the two people decide to live in peace and harmony together. And they and only they can do that. The rest can encourage them, can help them, can assist in any way they can, but they cannot impose a solution on them. And to bypass the Palestinians to try to reach to some other Arab countries and so on, I think is just eventually at the end an exercise that would not lead to the desired peace, permanent peace in the region.
Oh, those are very encouraging and inspirational words. Thank you very much, Dr. Al-Shahristani. So with this question and your answer, we're ready to close our session. Thank you, everyone. We hope the words of our president will be an inspiration to governments, to decision makers, to scientists, and most importantly, to humanity. An inspiration to seek a peaceful solution to our problems and to learn to live in harmony, as you very well said. Quoting the most inspiring words of the Russell Einstein Manifesto, remember your humanity,